To read Back to Reality, the best-selling novel of the Bestseller Experiment by the two Marks, go to bestsellerexperiment.com/Back to Reality.
And subscribe to this podcast to get loads of extra bonuses. Go to bestsellerexperiment.com/subscribe. Let's run the show.
Let's welcome Kim onto the show. Kim, hello, how are you today?
Hello, I'm good. I'm very good, thanks.
No, well, you are very good. We just heard how good you were.
Thanks.
Hello, Kim. It's lovely to have you on the show. This is a real treat for us. We don't often get to do this, where we get to actually speak to people who've been a part of this crazy madcap journey we've been on. And firstly, we just want to say thank you publicly to you for everything that you've done to get the book to this point, because this for us is such a massive, massive milestone, and it was so much fun working with you. And so thank you so much for.
Well, that's so nice of you to say, and it was my pleasure. I mean, I had such a nice time doing it. It was so funny.
Yeah, I think it comes across in the recording. You know, it's your energy and enthusiasm just shines through, and it was just great. And you kind of, you know, I've had some experience in theatre, and you hand something over to an actor, and sometimes they don't get it right, you know, but you just absolutely knocked it out of the park, and are just absolutely delighted with it. What I'd like to talk about now, listeners, if you, we're going to have a deep dive that accompanies this episode, and we'll play you a teaser for that towards the end of the show, just to give you an idea. And we go into the real nitty gritty with Kim about how an audiobook is made. So we talk about the whole process, the first auditions, the samples that she did, you know, what's needed to record an audiobook, accents, how the author's input into all of that. We go into that in considerable detail, a little mini masterclass over there. But today I'd like to talk to Kim about your career, and well, let's start with that. You're an actor. You've always wanted to act?
Yeah, I think so. I just didn't really know what else to do. So, yeah, I mean, it's all I've ever done. It's the only profession I've had. So, yeah. How
did you get into it, Kim? Was it something was it one of those kind of school plays that gave you the impetus to want to do that?
School plays. I enjoyed doing them. I went to, you know, a school in Portsmouth, and theatre was a big part of that. And not so that it would churn out actors, but so that you could like deal with your shit. You know, there was just a lot of role play and drama, and the school really encouraged that from us all. And so yeah, I got into it there, and then I, you know, auditioned to drama school, did that normal route, went to Mount View, did 3 years there, then did a year at the School of the Science of Acting with Sam Cogan, and then started my career.
Okay. How did a nice girl like you end up in Nashville?
I know. It's funny. It was always a bit of a running joke with my friends, because I was that weirdo who liked country music. I played the guitar and liked singing country songs. And so everyone used to joke that I'd end up in Nashville. And so it's very, very bizarre that I did, and not something I planned. So basically I fell in love, and the fella I fell in love with is in the music business. And he was going in between London and New York a lot. He had a publishing deal in New York. And so when we got together, we were just like, should we just go to New York? So we did. So we spent a year there. Then there was a few changes in his career, and he signed to Sony from there. And they thought it would be a good fit for us to move to LA. So we moved to LA for a couple of years. And all this time, I had a kid. So I had my son, who's now 12. So I was just being a mum, and I was doing voiceovers in various studios all over the place, just to kind of keep my hand in and keep myself a little bit busy. But I was mainly doing mum stuff. And then he did a writing, couple of weeks writing in Nashville. And he called me and said, it's incredible here. They write songs here. They actually write proper songs with a beginning, a middle, and an end. I think we should move here. And so I was like, okay. I mean, I miss the big blue sky in LA, but there was a lot of craziness there that I don't miss. So we just packed up and moved to Nashville.
We wrote about that, didn't we? I think we wrote about that in the book, didn't we?
You did. There were so many connections in your book with my life. There were so many. It was meant to be. Yeah, so we've been here 10 years and you know, very much settled here now. We have a studio, a professional studio here, and you know.
So can I ask him, you said you started to do voiceovers kind of just to keep your hand in. Was that the link then that came to actually working in audiobooks?
Yeah, it was and then they kind of picked up somewhat once I moved to Nashville. There was just, so every week I was flitting around all the studios doing various voiceovers, all corporate stuff. But I kept hearing the same thing, and people kept saying, you should be doing audiobooks. People just kept saying this to me. And so it was playing around in the back of my mind. And I just thought I wouldn't even know where to begin doing that. Obviously, we own a studio, and I can work a studio. I've been working in studios for years now. So I know how to record myself, and we've got, decent gear. So I just didn't know how you get the gigs. And then I heard about ACX, and I looked into it, and I was like, oh, okay. So I just started working that way.
Brilliant, because that's actually how we connected through ACX. And there's one thing I remember very specifically about your response when we put out the call for people to kind of give us a sample, and that was that you really, really connected, it felt, with Back2Reality, the story, very, very early on in that process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. And I'm pretty fussy now about what I do. And, if I don't have any connection with it, then there's no point in going that route. But with yours, I felt such a strong connection that I stalked you, didn't I? I not only auditioned.
Brilliant.
I also emailed you. I'd never done that before.
Yeah, I said, when your email came through, I said to Mark, I said, she's really keen, isn't she? Brilliant.
And I kept thinking, should I do this? And I'm like, no, I should, because I should be doing this book. I feel such a strong connection with it. I need to do it.
Well, that's the thing. You're telling us that, you moved to LA, and, there's all these connections. You're a singer, you play guitar. I mean, you could really be Joe, couldn't you? You could be the protagonist.
Do you know what else? My husband produced and wrote an album for an Icelandic artist called Johanna, and I actually had a co-write on her album.
No way!
Yes.
Oh God! You're going to start Mr. D off. He's going to go off about this being cosmic, aren't you?
I'm going to bring out my astrology charts, and they'll be like, "Oh, that's brilliant." That's amazing though, because Johanna, that's a very. I mean, when we came up with that name, and it was obviously a play on Joe or Joanna, and but we thought Johanna, oh yeah, it's a really nice kind of Scandinavian, but it's a very unusual name. You don't hear it very often. The fact that your husband produced an album, that's funny.
I guess you being in the States as well, you having an English accent is a big advantage, isn't it? I guess, that because I remember we went to Florida a few years ago, and they got that wonderful Harry Potter thing at the Universal Studios, and they used genuinely English actors. And I remember saying to my son, who wants to act, I've tried to talk him out of it, but he wants to act. I said, you want to move to Florida, mate? You'll just get a job here, because it's having an English accent in the States, I guess, must get you work occasionally, does it?
It does and it doesn't, because it cuts you out of a whole market as well. It means that the pool that you are in is a little smaller, but also the work is less. So, but you know what? I've not had any trouble. I started doing plays again once I moved to Nashville and was settled here. I started to just, get back into that. And there's really there's plenty of work. And I've played a few Americans actually as well.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I guess your accent goes across the world. But I guess one of the major things is nowadays with the internet. I mean, you could be based anywhere. You could have got this gig with Back2Reality if you were based in Iceland. I guess.
I know. I think that all the time. I'm like, I want to move to Greece and just have a lovely house by the sea. I can still do what I'm doing. Do it anyway.
Like Shirley Valentine narrator kind of styly. That'd be perfect, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Well, the guy who narrated the audiobook for Robot Overlords, and I'm going to forget his name now, which is really embarrassing, but he's a Brit and he's moved to Australia, and he basically rolls out of bed, has a recording studio in his house, and has the most amazing view over the Australian, well, not the outback, but it's has this most amazing view, and he that's it. He's moved to where he wants to go. He's moved to where he wants to be, and you can do this absolutely anywhere. Rupert Degar, that's his name, and he's he does a lot of science fiction and fantasy. He does Patrick Rothfuss and people like that. So yeah, you can do this pretty much anywhere, can't you?
Yes, you can work in your pajamas.
Well,
and
so
no one
funny.
cares if you brush your teeth or not.
You say that, Kim, but
I literally do the
I've
same
only
thing.
just rolled out of bed myself.
I roll out of bed, I come into the studio, I talk to myself for a few hours, and then I go take a break. It's great. It's the best job ever.
It's very similar to being a writer, isn't it?
What's it like, Kim? One question I've got is that one of the things that I've learned through this process of writing this book, and for everyone who's kind of new to this, Back to Reality was my first novel, obviously co-written with Mark, and I found that it's such a huge process. And people don't really appreciate it fully until you've actually been through it. I think that's why a lot of people don't actually even start writing a book, because it just feels so big, such a big thing to take on. But it got me thinking when you were working on the audiobook, I thought, my goodness me, here we've written this book, but you've got to bring it to life in a completely new way with characters' voices, and you've got to kind of get yourself into the heads of the characters. How different is this an experience to you, for example, having to play every character than it is when you maybe stand on stage and you're given one particular role?
It's so much better, because when you're on stage, you're eating one little piece of the pie. And then when you're doing the audiobook, you get to eat the whole pie. You get to play everyone. It's like, I also direct. And so it's like directing, being in something. It's like the whole thing. And nobody's telling you that you're doing it wrong. You just sat in the room, just doing it yourself, just making those choices and going with them, and you can fully immerse yourself in each thing, because you have the luxury of being able to stop and then go over something. So I would find that if I'm talking, I've got 3 or 4 different characters and they're all having a conversation and they're all from different places. Thanks for that. You have to kind of, you read what you can, and then I would just leave in markers. So I'll just speak in my normal voice, 1 or 2 of the characters, and then go back over it and then take that out and put in the voice of whoever is speaking. So,
wow.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's a labour of love, isn't it?
Oh gosh, it really is. Sometimes the editing can take forever and can be quite frustrating. But it's so worth it. It really is an enjoyable job. My goodness.
Brilliant. I've got to ask you, you obviously know this book more intimately than probably Mark and I do now, and our favourite and our number one readers out there.
Oh, I loved your book.
In the process of making this, I'm sure you kind of got to know the characters as you delve deeper and deeper into the book. But who was your favourite character to actually narrate?
I think it was Laurie.
Oh, brilliant. That is so music to my ears.
Yeah, but I think it was. I mean, just just that particularly that phone call when he's on the phone and he's talking to Johanna and he's just cursing every time he puts the phone down. I laughed so much. I had to go take a break. I was laughing so much. Although Paul Hollywood, that did me in as well. It killed me.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, it's a kind of in-joke for anyone that hasn't read the book. So if you haven't read it, go and buy it. Or even better, go listen to the audiobook.
Yeah.
But one of the great joys, because I listened back to it chapter by chapter, and and I'm occasionally you might make notes or whatever, but to be honest, it was just a joy to listen back to it. And I know we shouldn't laugh at our own jokes, Mr. D, but that was the thing. It reinvigorated the book for me, and it was such a joy hearing it come from someone else, and that was just a wonderful thing. Now, Kim, was it you said earlier, someone said to you should do audiobooks, and we often talk on here about how writers often get an affirmation from a friend saying, you know what, you can write, you should keep this up. How aware were you of audiobooks? Did you listen to them anyway? And was it quite a steep learning curve for you? Was it a big adjustment?
You know what? It wasn't. That's the thing. That's how you know that you're doing the right thing, because once I started, I was locked in. I knew what I was doing. And that's not to say that I'm not always open to learning, because I am, there's always new stuff to learn, new technology and new techniques. But I just locked onto it straight away from the first book. And I was like, this is exactly where I need to be. Everything aligned for me when I started doing it. And I think I just always thought that I had to, I guess it's that classic thing of being an actor, isn't it? You always feel like you have to wait to be asked to do something, wait for someone to say, would you like to do this? And this felt very much like, I just took control myself. I was like, okay, I want to do it. How do I do it? What do I want to be doing? And so it was just like starting a business.
Definitely. I mean, it's a whole new world, isn't it? And it's interesting as well how it ties in. We found it very fascinating doing this podcast because of the power of audio and just seeing how podcasts have kind of exploded into the world now. And really, audiobooks are very much kind of almost in some ways an extension of that. The fact that people can listen to them anywhere, when they're driving, when they're out in the garden, when they're commuting to work and the like. And for me, it's a really, really exciting area of growth, and I just think it's only going to go one way. I think there's going to be more and more opportunities for people like yourself and for writers as well. And I'm kind of curious as well, Kim, I mean, from all the writers listening, and I know that we go into this in much more detail in a deep dive, but is there one overriding tip, having gone through this experience with us with Back to Reality and the other books you've done, that you would give writers who are thinking of taking on someone who is going to do their audiobook for them?
Yeah, there's probably a couple of things. One is you have to have a good relationship with them, and a good rapport with them, and you have to trust them. So once you've initially laid out what you want, what your expectations are, make sure that they understand, and then let them be and just trust them. But the other thing that I would say is, if you put your work up and you for audition, and you get several auditions in and you're listening to them, obviously listen out for the connections, but also listen out for the technical stuff as well. So I would say definitely listen with a good pair of headphones on, and make sure that there's not any background noise, and that there's not too much breath and that kind of thing. So particularly with ACX, because the narrators are not just narrating, they're also producing. You want to make sure that their production skills are as good as their narration. That's really, really important, because quite often I found myself trying to listen to an audiobook and I can't get over how the technical aspect of it, if it's recorded, not as well as it should have been. That's
a brilliant tip. And as a recording artist myself, that is music to my ears. And it's actually quite rare, I think, to find someone who has not just the experience that you've got, Kim, but also the equipment. I mean, the amount of times we've auditioned vocalists, they've got bad microphones, or they don't know what they're doing in terms of actually recording. It doesn't matter how good they are as a singer. Yeah. So if it's not recorded on with a good microphone, if it's not recorded in a sound booth or with the right environment, then you end up with a substandard.
Absolutely, and that's such a shame. Yeah, because it can kill really good talent and really good work.
Yeah, and with the amount of work and effort and hours put in, you need to make sure you get it right. That's a brilliant, brilliant tip. I think the other thing that's really interesting about this whole project is actually Mark Stay's experience in acting and theatre, because I was kind of watching the two of you navigate the kind of through the audition and then talking a bit about the characters and changes. And I think it's quite rare as well, from the narrator's perspective, to get someone who actually understands theatre and acting and was able to communicate with you in that way. And I think that's why the deep dive is so, so important for any author who's thinking of working with narrator. Mark, your background and experience in theatre must have come into play in a huge way when you were working with Kim at the very beginning.
Yes, but the thing, going back to what Kim was saying about trust, we had a number of auditions come through, and you and I would download them, we'd listen to them, we'd make notes and exchange notes. But as soon as I heard Kim's, I was like, she gets it. She gets it. Yeah. And it was that and sometimes it's just luck. I mean, I think we've been very, very lucky to get Kim to narrate this book. Sometimes it's that indefinable little something, and you think, this is going to make my life so much easier. She gets it. She really, and it's. I've sat in when we did Robot Overlords. I sat in some of the auditions, and I watched John when he was working on the film, and having directed a bit myself. It's great watching directors work, because one of the things they certainly do at auditions is they just check to see if an actor can take direction. So you would give a little note and say, can you try it this way a little bit? Or can we do this? And then when the actor delivers that, you think, brilliant. This is someone who not only takes direction, but elevates it as well, takes it somewhere else, brings themselves to the part and surprises you. Because what you don't want to end up doing, and we have a question about this on the deep dive, where someone's saying, what if they don't say it the way I've written it in my head? You can't think like that, because you do hear horror stories of directors who will give actors line readings. They will go up to the actor and say, I want you to say it word for word like this.
Way to
with
kill a
this
performance
intonation.
right there.
Exactly. Exactly.
Gosh.
Yeah, and you don't want to do that. You have to. You can't be a control freak or a micromanager like that. You have to be brave enough to step back and say, this actor gets it. I'm going to let them get on with it.
But what helped was your notes, your direction was very clear. It was incredibly clear. So firstly, the characters were well written and well defined. And then secondly, when you gave me a breakdown of all those characters, it just made it all so much clearer. So,
Thank you very much.
That's brilliant. Well, I'm going to say, if you're thinking of writing or getting an audiobook of your novel done, or if you've done one before and it hasn't been a good experience, you need to listen to this deep dive. It is the masterclass in how to work with narrator. So let's dive in now and just have a little preview of the deep dive. If you're a patron supporter, this is what you will be treated to this week.
Let's talk about the kind of offers that ACX do, because there's one where you get paid a fee, which we couldn't afford.
Yeah.
So we went with the producer split. Do you want to talk about the pros and cons of both of those from the point of view of a producer and narrator like yourself?
Yeah. So if I take on a royalty share, then I need to know that the book is going to sell some copies. Because, I've made a couple of bad judgments, particularly at first, where, books have just sold 20 copies, and that's not worth my time, because it's really, really time consuming. I mean, your book took me 2 weeks of full-time work to do. Because once I get started, that's it, I'm in the flow. And then, you've created those characters and you're going with it. And if it's not what the author wants to hear, that's a really tough thing to fix. Further along. The other thing is, you could narrate 2 chapters and then find out in the third one that the character's Irish, and then you've got to go back and do the whole thing again. So it's really good to know these things, and sometimes just pointers, character notes, like, is this person flighty, breathy, excitable, grounded? Just a few words like that can just change your read enough to give you a defined character, and you just need to make sure that you and the author are on the same page with that.
How do you prepare to read for the whole book? Do you read the whole thing in advance and make notes?
No, I don't. I think some authors do, some narrator producers do, but I don't. I like to have the story revealed as I'm reading it. But that's not to say that I don't prepare thoroughly beforehand by, like we discussed earlier, by speaking with the author and making those connections with the characters, making sure that I know where the book is going. So I might skim a little bit ahead, but I like it to be really, really fresh as I'm reading it. But that's not to say that I don't, make a ton of mistakes. And so I end up, sometimes I'll read a paragraph 3 times. But I don't read the entire book beforehand. But I do know who's in it, where they're from, who they are, roughly where they're going. My studio is like I'm surrounded by scraps of paper, by Post-it notes, by things I've printed off, by pictures even. I just surround myself with notes. And quite recently what I've started doing is I have a separate sound file. So now whenever I start with a character, because I'm doing quite a lot of books that are part of a series, for various different authors. And so when a character is established, I just record a little bit of that character, and it's in a file marked, character notes. And then that way, when that character comes back in the second book, and I never thought I'd see them again, I know exactly what I did.
So yes, folks, that's Kim and I. We go into great detail on producing an audiobook. We go right from the very first auditions to samples to preparing for reading an audiobook, all sorts of stuff. The whole process from soup to nuts, as they say, or nuts to soup, one way or the other. Anyway, we go through the whole thing, and I think it's essential listening. So do check it out. Kim, you mentioned that you did a zombie apocalypse book, and there are you're dipping into genres that you might not normally read. Are you finding that there are genres that you prefer? Do you find you have a knack for certain things over others? What really turns your head when it comes to choosing a project?
I like characters like Joe. So there was a book that I did recently called 10 Dates, where it's quite a sexy book. It's like a modern romance, but that character is like very, very funny, self-deprecating character who gets into a lot of scrapes. And it's written in the first person. And I really enjoyed that. I really like those kind of like, you know, quirky female characters. But that's not to say I don't like the other stuff too, like the stuff that I would never normally pick up. And you just find yourself reading with a different tone. But you just give yourself over to the author's work and let yourself be that conduit. And, you know, that's the most that you can do. But I found that, like, you know, as a reader of books, I'm not religious in that I have to finish a book. If I'm not enjoying a book, then I won't finish it, or I'll perhaps throw it across the room. You know, but when you're narrating something, when you're producing it, you're so invested and consumed by it that I'm so lucky. Every book I've done has been really, really good, and I've really enjoyed.
And how many books do you tend to do a year? I mean, the actual amount of time it takes. In fact, how long did it take to do Back to Reality, would you say,
2 weeks.
In terms of hours?
It took me 2 weeks, which is, So what I tend to do is work. So if it's 10 finished hours of audio, which we guessed that Back to Reality would be, then I'll give myself 10 days to do it, and then 1 day to kind of get over it, and then start on the next one. Mourn, if you will, which I did when I finished yours. But I took a little bit longer with your one because there were so many characters, and I just found myself just wanting to spend a little bit more time with it.
Yeah, brilliant stuff.
Yeah, but I'll probably do, by the end of this year, I would have probably done 50 this year.
50? Wowzers.
Yeah.
Mental. So is this pretty much, and you still manage to squeeze in some acting as well on stage?
No, I don't want to anymore. I've turned down 3. I've turned down 3 plays this year and 1 directing gig because I'm just loving talking to myself in a dark room all day.
In your pajamas, yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
It scratches all the itches. It's just perfect.
Brilliant stuff. Now, if somebody was new to the book and they wanted to experience the highlight for you in the story of Back to Reality, is there one scene, without any too many spoilers, is there one scene that really, really jumped out for you?
There were lots of scenes that jumped out for me, and lots of small moments and throwaway lines and just general well-constructed characters that just made me smile to just kind of, you know, have in my head for that time. I don't know. No, I enjoyed the whole thing so much. I mean, the karaoke bar at the beginning, come on, that was so funny. So funny.
Now that especially if you're recording 50 books a year, which is more than most people read in a year. I mean, you see people, as a New Year's resolution say, I'm going to read a book a week for a year or whatever. So, you know, you're pretty much doing that. You must have a very good idea of story structure and character and what makes a good book. Do you have any plans to write yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. I mean, I've written a couple of plays, but I'm writing the weirdest book at the moment. I mean, not weird. It's a compilation. Oh my God, I don't even know if I should talk about this.
Yeah, okay. No, you're on the bestseller experiment. You have to.
I am writing a book right now, and it's called Bloody Hell.
Right.
Yeah. And it's all about the menopause.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, Marks, there you go. You asked.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you what.
I'm collecting stories from women. I know a lot of women who are like, I'm in my late 40s, a lot of women who are like from early 40s to their 70s and have experienced symptoms, the things that happen like during the menopause that nobody talks about, all the stuff that no one talks about. It's just so taboo. And women are strong. And so women just kind of take this shit and just get on with it. But, I started collecting stories. I've got some corkers. Oh, I've got some really good ones.
Can I just say, Kim, I'm afraid we probably won't be able to return the favour and do the audiobook for you on that.
Oh my God.
would
Could
be
you
something.
imagine?
Do
the whole audiobook with just men.
Yeah. It's like those when you go to a literary conference and there's a diversity panel and it's 4 white blokes. I'm sure my wife won't mind me revealing this on a big podcast, but she's going through it too,
right?
And she said exactly the same thing. There's so much, because people make, they go, oh, she's going through the change, but no one actually tells you what that is. And there's some of the strangest stuff. And if you're someone who's used to having complete control of your faculties and then suddenly you're like a glow stick in the middle of the night or whatever, it can, I tell you, I think that's going to, and that's a great title as well, Bloody Hell. I think that's, that's a smash hit. I think you've found a market.
Really?
You've found a gap in the market. Yeah.
I just need to stop narrating for a second so I can, write it up.
Brilliant stuff.
Yeah, keep us informed on that one.
Oh, I
That's
will.
amazing. Now, Kim, if people want to reach out to you, if they're interested in using you as a narrator for their book, what is the best way of them doing that?
You can contact me through kimbretton.com.
Perfect.
Yes, there's a little page at the back where you can just send me an email.
We'll put a link in the show notes for that, listeners. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can find us on social media. We're Bestseller Experiment on Facebook. Twitter and Instagram is @BestsellerXP. If you go to bestsellerexperiment.com, there's a contact page there. Don't forget to subscribe, rate and review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, whatever they're calling it these days, or your favorite podcast provider. A big thank you to Dave and JD, our editors, for this week, because certainly the deep dive is going to be a challenge because we recorded it on at least 3 different formats, didn't we, Kim?
Yes.
But it's going to sound amazing, and the content is going to blow your mind. If you want to listen to those deep dives, well, come and support us on Patreon. Like I said, there's 3 tiers. If you just want to support us, you're Pensmith, $2 a month. Thank you very much for that. But for $5, you get access to this deep dive and over 60 others. And we cover, they're all mini masterclasses, some of them full-length masterclasses in the subject. And we cover all sorts of stuff in nitty-gritty detail that's going to make you a better, more accomplished author. And if you come and support us as a chart topper for $10, you get all the deep dives, access to our exclusive Facebook group. You get the episodes early, episodes of bonus material, and you get involved in our one-page punch-ups and live shows and much, much more. So get involved.
Brilliant. And you go over to bestsellerexperiment.com/support to find out more. So, Kim, I guess we better leave you because you probably got a couple of audiobooks to finish off today based on your current schedule.
I'm actually narrating a lesbian romance right now. So
fantastic. Oh, my gosh. I just think that it's been such an amazing experience for both of us to work with you. It's been really eye-opening. I mean, it has been a kind of look behind the kind of the black curtain as to how audiobooks are created. And I recommend to anyone out there who's even remotely thinking of doing an audiobook, don't think, just go ahead and do it. It's probably one of the most one of the highlights of our year, and we are so grateful that you have delivered in a number of hours this incredible audio version of Back to Reality. So thank you so much for that, Kim.
No, thanks for letting me do it. I really had the best time. It's such a great book. Such a great book.
Oh, thank you so much. And if you would like to hear the audiobook of Back to Reality, then to do that, you just pop along to Audible and it's there. We think, we hope.
Hopefully.
And if it isn't, come to our website because we'll be announcing the date. And this is part of the beauty of audiobooks. It's very hard to schedule a release because you're at the beck and call of the quality control process, should we say, at the back end where they go through. And that's really what's happening as we record. So we still don't actually have the book literally in our hands. But when this episode comes out, we hope it's live. If not, it will be live very, very shortly, and we will update you on the website.
If it is,
Facebook,
I'll put links in the show notes, folks, so you'll be able to scroll down, find the link, and go straight to it. So,
and we want, if you do listen to the book, we want you to be one of the first 10 reviewers of the audiobook. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you enjoyed the most about it. Give us your feedback. I'm sure, Kim, you'd be more than delighted to also sit with us and watch these hopefully really great reviews piling in. It's all part of the fun, isn't it?
It is.
Brilliant stuff. So it's a goodbye from Kim, and it's a goodbye from Mark 1.
And a goodbye from Mark 2. Goodbye.
So goodbye. See you next week.
Bye.
What are your writing dreams? Finishing that book? Quitting the day job? Becoming a best-selling author? Since 2016, we've interviewed and studied the advice of over 500 best-selling authors who've collectively sold over 1 billion books. And in the Bestseller Academy, we've incorporated powerful and proven strategies for success, inspiring fiction and non-fiction authors just like you to reach new heights and write their best book ever. Ready to take your writing to the next level with accountability, craft, coaching, and the most inspiring and exclusive community of like-minded writers? Well, your bestseller dreams are just a click away. Join us today at bestsellerexperiment.com/academy. That's bestsellerexperiment.com/academy. Are you ready to transform your writing and your life? Join the 200-word challenge today. In just 5 days, learn to develop a lifelong writing habit with over 2 hours of free expert coaching and the encouragement of a vibrant community. This program has already changed the lives of thousands of writers like you. No matter how busy you are, this challenge will show you that with just 200 words a day, you can significantly boost your creativity, productivity, mental health, and confidence, propelling you towards the end. For the first time, receive comprehensive coaching and step-by-step guidance, all for free. Transform your writing habit and start your journey to become the writer you've always aspired to be. What are you waiting for? Sign up for free now at 200wordchallenge.com and make writing a part of your daily life for life.